Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. This is what happens when you forget to open the door when you go to bed. That's not funny. That temperature and that humidity is not good. The door's open now, it'll soon warm up and the humidity will go down, but yeah, you know, a little bit of temperature control forgotten one night. It's only gone down to, well, just below 15, but that's still pretty low. Things are still growing, you know, I don't want them slowing down artificially. So we'll keep our eye on it. But yeah, we all make a mistake now and again. It's amazing what happens when you're away. This is my bowl full of Bulbophyllum Elizabethan Buckleberry. Several back bulb divisions with single new growths and 2 reasonable pieces. And I'm not kidding, I watered these just before I went away, so it's only just over a week ago. These were not there then, so we've got a spike here literally opening and another one whizzing up the back here. Who knows, there may be more lurking in under these leaves. But yeah, I mean, that is quite an incredible growth spike to produce in a week. Because if it had been poking out over that leaf when I went, I'd have seen it. So quite incredible growth. So we'll have a couple of Bulbophyllum blooms in the near future. As I say, this one is literally just opening, so it hasn't got its colours or anything properly yet, and the other one's following on. Of course, they would be at opposite ends of the bowl, wouldn't they? Now I've got to try and find somewhere to put that where we can see the blooms, which is not going to be easy. Methinks it might have to go there, but then if the spikes are sticking out in opposite directions, I'll work on it. Maybe I ought to put it there temporarily and let one go that way and one come out here, something like that, because they are staggered. I'll work something out while I'm at it. Well, this video is turning into like the other half of the video of the spike and bud hunt. Because I didn't water all the plants that day when I was filming, and I'm now getting on to the rest of them, I've just found another sneaky one that's crept up while I was away. This Cattleya here. See, now there's a classic example of not producing a sheath and chucking the buds straight out the top. No hesitation. That bulb's only just matured and the buds are there already, and that is, oh, that's going to be interesting. That is Cattleya Little Lemon Drops, so there should be some yellow on it, crossed with a Cattletonia Why Not. So that's going to be interesting. Oh, and that's a spike coming out of that growth as well. So the 2 latest new growths on that are both going to bloom. That I'm impressed with. I'm also impressed on this particular plant. I've just found quite a lot of scale on the leaves, and I just brushed them and they came straight off. So that last lot of pesticide that I put in there seems to have worked. Well, to cross everything, that I doubt if it's worked totally. I expect there's still some managed to get away with it down in under the base somewhere. But with scale, it's a matter of keeping on top of them and just don't let them get out of hand. You know, in very small numbers, they can't really do a lot of harm. But the one thing you do have to remember is that any biting insects that transfer from one plant to another could take some nasties with them, you know, and you may not even know the original plant's got a nasty, you know, things like the dreaded F potentially could be spread that way. Anyway, we've got some Cattleya buds on the way, 2 spikes on that plant. That'll be interesting. I haven't had this one long, so that'll be a first time blooming. We like those. This is going to be a bits and bobs video, I can tell. I thought while I was out here we'd have a last look at this, because this is the last bloom. This is Miltonia Queen Anne. Last bloom and just showing signs of fading, so it's not going to be with us much longer. But this was good. 2 spikes on the latest 2 growths. Sorry, 1 on each. Be clear, Roger. And they were attractive blooms and multicoloured, because some of the blooms came out with quite a bit of white on the actual lip, and some just came out purple, and some faded and changed colours as they aged. So it's an unusual bloom, that one. And the other Miltonia that's out at the moment is Castanier, which I believe is a natural hybrid. naturally occurring hybrid. But these have an attraction that's difficult to describe, and I think it's just the combination of colours. I mean, it's virtually an identical purple to the petals and sepals on this one. That's good. But then the petals and sepals on this one are a difficult to describe colour. It's a sort of brassy colour, I suppose you could say. There's hints of yellow there, hints of bronze. Yeah, it's an unusual colour. And the camera does actually capture this, because you know what cameras are like. Sometimes they play games with your colours and the true colour doesn't show. But this one seems to come out true. Very attractive. And that Tolumnia looks just gorgeous in the sunlight. There's just a ray of sun catching that bloom. So that's looking good. And the Arengus decariana, this one is, blooms are hanging in there. They look like they are going to last a reasonable amount of time. There's 2 complete spikes yet to open. 1 partially open and 2 fully open. But the fragrance on this after dark is absolutely wonderful. So I just thought I'd slot those in while I was there. The little Deesa's looking good, backlit. That's a very late bloom for that type of Deesa, but we have them when they decide, and it does have at least 2 more buds to come on that one, so that should be in bloom a little while. Because the last lot of Deesa blooms got hit with the heat. They didn't last anywhere near as long as they should have, but hopefully as we've cooled down a bit now, as you saw by the thermometer clip taken first thing this morning as it was getting light, whoops, yeah, these should last a bit longer. I don't think there's any more spikes to come on the Deesas. This will be it for this year, and we look forward to the same again next year with possibly some additions and some different colours. Another little tip that I've found useful, quite honestly, is anybody that dunks plants in a container of water, don't let the water be freezing cold. It's a hell of a shock for a root system, especially if the plant itself is in its pot and it's relatively warm and you dunk it in freezing cold water. It really doesn't do it any good. This is my Vanda bucket that I use for my Vandaceous types that get dunked, and as you saw from the little first thing this morning clip, it got rather cold out here last night, so that water would have chilled down overnight. So what I do is I just fill up some containers with the hot water out of the tap, which is quite hot, and then just dunk them in there for a while, and the heat disperses into the water that's going to get used on the orchids, and give it a swirl round, and it takes the chill off it for no additional cost or work really. That just sits there warming up while I'm doing other stuff. So it is worth bearing in mind, certainly like in the UK we're heading into the longer nights, it's going to get a bit colder. Just think about where you're storing your water. Mine is all stored indoors, so it's naturally at room temperature. But you know, if you're bringing in water from, say, rainwater barrels outside, they can chill right down overnight, and it's not ideal to pour freezing cold water on any orchids, quite honestly. If that was a good idea, we'd all be chucking ice on our orchids, wouldn't we? Tee-hee. Daft idea. But you know, you're working along the same lines if you chuck freezing cold water on your orchids. You know, they're tropical. In the main, what we grow is tropical orchids. They don't get freezing cold water. So think about your water temperature. Another little thing that shouldn't be a big deal, shouldn't be a big effort, but certainly worth thinking about. Don't chill your roots. It's not a good idea. I thought while I've got the zygos out, we'd have a little look at what they're up to. This one's behaving strangely, but it's not dying. That's a bonus. This little one that came out of the big box, whoops, drip all over the place, why don't you? It's a Zygonicea, and it's Murasakii Kamado dark blue. Bleh. But the new growth's pushing on nicely, and it's now started another little one down from the base. So this is growing okay. I haven't got a clue how big this has got to get before it even thinks about blooming, but it is a young plant, that's for sure. But anyway, it's growing. That's good news, especially for me. It's difficult for me to get rid of the thoughts. I've lost so many zygopetalums in the past. I mean, one was virus, so you know, that wasn't me. That had to get out of here real quick because it was blatantly obvious that was virus, so I dumped that pretty sharpish. But this one, this is the Louisendorf, and this was its latest growth, and it's done that funny thing. Now, it's not the first time it's done that, because there's another old one back there where it grows a pseudo-bulb and then sort of grows another one on top. It's a very strange behaviour. But the two latest growths are this one and this one. They are both plenty large enough to bloom, but they didn't. Yeah? And now it's highly likely that the new growths coming out, because they are so low down, are going to be more new growths. It's got a good one round here that's going to be out the edge of the pot, but luckily some of the roots are far enough back to get in. And this one's going to get a bit squashed in there, but it'll push its way up. There's movement here, it will have room to develop. But yeah, strange behaviour this. But it's growing, it's not dead, and for me that's pretty good stuff. But yeah, not quite sure what's going on. The latest two growths didn't bloom, and now it looks like it's starting two more growths. I mean, that's not a spike, it's definitely a growth, and therefore the other one probably is as well. But maybe it'll bloom on those two. It might be that the bulbs matured at the wrong time of year and it didn't get the day lengths. You know, it's difficult to say, but keeping it alive is the bonus for me. Some of the old leaves got bashed around where I was keeping it. I've had to trim them. And I mean, older leaves on these don't last forever. You do get leafless bulbs eventually, but it should take a long time. On zygos, in the main, they hold their leaves for some considerable time. So if you're dropping your leaves annually, it could be a care issue, environment issue, could be many things, but it might even be a type of zygo that does that. So, you know, you've got to do a bit of work sometimes. Now this zygo's a no ID hybrid. From memory it was in bloom when I got it, and I don't think it's matured any bulbs since then. And from memory I believe these are the first new growths since I got it. So, but there are two, so we've effectively got two growth points on here, and only just starting, but we'll see how we go with those. It's just a wait and see, but obviously these new growths are going to be trying to grow and mature through the winter period. They'll get a bit of a kick now before the days get too short, so they should head off, because they grow at a fair old pace, zygo new growths. They definitely won't be spikes, and hopefully we'll get some blooms. I say as the bulbs mature, but a lot of zygos push their spikes out before the bulbs are mature, like about halfway, and then the spikes come and grow alongside. So as the bulb matures, the spike gets going as well. So we'll see how we go. Well, that wind's going to take my roof off soon. It's a blowy day. The sun's out, but it's a blowy day, and I think we got some nasty weather coming. Anyway, it's growing, not dead yet. We like that. And this last one really is playing games. Not a happy plant, this one. Zygopetalum Arta Ellie, Stonehurst, and was awarded. Not this one. Get award for the ugliest zygo in the collection. Now this one has played games because it pushed up this new growth which hasn't matured. It's got no bulb, it's just like a leaf. There's no base to it. It just didn't mature. And already the new growth it's pushing up now is fatter and shows signs of a pseudo-bulb, even though it's only just started. So what went wrong with this growth I don't know, but hopefully this one will grow and mature. Whether it will bloom or not I don't know, because effectively it's got very little leaf support. It's got this one leaf on what was supposed to be a good growth that didn't mature. and one single leaf on an old bulb, so it hasn't got a lot of support here. It also didn't have a very good root system. Hopefully this new growth will put the root system right, and it'll get some strength into it. That's probably why this didn't mature. It just didn't have any backup. It only had one leaf, yeah, and a very poor root system. Well, you know, plant's not going to do well like that. But this growth just didn't mature. And this one hopefully will, so we'll see how we get on with that one. That's the zygos. Oh, I can't walk past that without filming it. Oncidium verrucosum, although its name has not only changed, it's totally changed. It's no longer an Oncidium, and it's no longer verrucosum. I'll call it Fred or George, I think. That'll, you know, maybe they'll change the name often enough that Fred and George might actually come round. Who knows? It does get on your wick. But these blooms for Oncidium types are quite large, and an impressive colour. Again, it's a combination. Only two colours, and that makes it simplistic, but that also makes it stunning. It's a vivid yellow, and the deepest plum purple colour that is literally almost black. It's probably my favourite Oncidium bloom. It's up there anyway if it's not. Yeah, stunning. These last a fair amount of time, so I don't think this is going to be going over in any short period of time. So it'll be around for a while yet, but while it's around it will sneak into videos as often as I remember. You just can't have enough of that sort of colour. So that's the lot for this one. A right mix and match. It's just bits and bobs, literally, as the title said. It's just some random clips put together, some blooms, some surprises, just stuff going on out here generally. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.